So welcome to this lecture series of cognitive ergonomics. So we in this lecture are going to cover this what is attention and attention resources. So in series with this we will be covering attention resources, and as far as previous lecture covering is concerned, so we covered this perception and types of perception. So as far as the definition of attention is concerned, as a normal English word, attention is nothing but focusing towards particular work. So if you are giving a proper focus or keeping your mind towards a particular work, that is attention. So this attention is playing a very important role in cognitive ergonomics. So any cognitive activity which you want to work in a well efficient manner, so the attention is very much necessary. So in cognitive ergonomics, this attention is of several types that we will discuss in later slides, and this particular model that you are seeing in the slide, so this is the human information processing model that we are taking every time in order to understand this cognitive ergonomic in a better way. And so as you can see that we covered in the previous slide this perception portion. Stimuli we are parallel covering throughout our discussion for this ergonomics, and so here this particular part now we will focus in this lecture. So attention resources occupy an very important position in our model of human information processing. So as the particular diagram is indicating, that attention resources act upon nearly all stages of cognition as a driver of these stages, that perception, working memory, response selection, response execution. So in all sort of part of human information processing, this attention resource is playing a very important role, and in fact it occupies a top position in this particular model of human information processing. So here attention is just having meaning to keep one's mind on something. That something may be any work that is related to your daily activity, or the work related to your job. So it involves nothing but mental concentration, and readiness for such concentration. In cognitive ergonomics, several types of attention are being explored. So these attentions are selective attention. In fact, we will use a separate slide for that. So this particular attention can be distinguished as selective attention, it can be focused attention, another kind of attention is divided attention, and sustained attention. So in this way, this attention can be subdivided into 4 categories. So now we will try to understand what this selective attention is, what focus attention, and what is divided attention, and what is sustained attention. So first of all, we will take selective attention. So this particular selective attention, it refers to a situation in which a person needs to monitor multiple sources of information in order to perceive irregularities or opportunities. Basically, it involves filtering out certain channels of information in order to focus on one channel that is deemed important, and then obviously rotating attention to other channels in sequence or in turn. So humans are inherently multi-channel beings, in that they have multiple sensory organs and each one is capable of responding to multiple stimuli. So we can make one sentence here also, that humans are inherently multi-channel beings, as they have multiple sensory organs like eyes, ears, nose, etc. And each one of this sensory organ is capable of responding to multiple stimuli. So examples of selective attention include the following, which can be the pilot checking gauges, looking for readings that might explain airplane's erratic behavior, football quarterback watching other team's defensive line to exploit weaknesses. Another kind of example that you can take, a driver periodically checking the gauges and dials on the dashboard while watching the road ahead. Driver periodically checking the gauges and dials on the dashboard of four-wheeler while he is parallelly watching the road ahead. So here in this case, the person must select which channels to give attention to and which to ignore at a particular moment of time. So in a task involving selective attention, the individual must be aware and must be sensitive enough to decide which channel to give proper attention at that particular time and which channel to neglect, at least on a temporary basis. So factors that influence this selection process is including expectancy, salience and value. This expectancy means that if a person expects a certain channel to provide the information and pays more attention to it. Salience refers to the stimuli that stands out among the rest of the channels. They grab your attention. The truck horn in an earlier example was a salient stimulus. Finally, the value of the information acquired by means of a given input channel is likely to bias its selection. If the channel usually provides no useful information, less attention will be paid to it. So conversely, if the input channel is deemed important, more attention will be paid to it. So while driving a car, viewing the road and the vehicle ahead is much more important channel, that is to see a gasoline dashboard, the gasoline gauge in the dashboard. So here this selective attention is to set the priority that at particular time which thing has to be focused on and which thing has to be, what kind of thing has to be in a lesser priority. So now we come to the next attention, that is focused attention. So as in selective attention, tasks involving focused attention force the individual to cope up with the multiple input channels, but the difference is that the person must focus on only one channel for a sustained period of time and exclude all of the other stimuli. The person attends to one stimulus and is not distracted by the others, which can be considered as a noise at a particular time. So that particular attention is known as focused attention. So irrespective of the noise and the external disturbances that is around a particular person, if he is focusing towards a particular work, that is his focused attention. So focused attention refers to the situation in which a person must cope up with multiple input channels but focus on only one channel for a sustained period of time. This person pays attention to one stimulus and is not distracted by others. These other factors are considered as a noise. For example, having a conversation with one friend in a crowded room which is full of people who are also talking. So this particular situation everybody can face in his life, and when you are completely focusing towards your own words to communicate to the person in front of you, so that is your focused attention. The second kind of example that we can take here in the category of focused attention, that is reading a book in an airport lobby while many other activities are going on in that particular area. Another kind of example in focused attention is a fighter pilot landing on his airplane on the deck of an aircraft carrier during rough seas. So the factors affecting one's ability to focus attention on a single stimulus include proximity, separation of sources and background noise. Basically this particular proximity is what? It refers to the physical distance of the stimulus. It refers to the physical distance of stimulus source from the person trying to focus attention. It is easier to pay attention to someone when they are speaking right next to you. So why I am talking about this proximity? Because these are the factors affecting one's ability to focus attention on one stimulus. So the proximity is the distance of the stimulus source from the person trying to focus attention. There is another factor that is affecting one's ability, that is separation. So separation of the sources means that stimulus are arriving from distinctly different directions. So it is basically easier to focus attention on a source directly in front of a person, meaning thereby that it is easier to focus attention on the source that is facing you rather than someone located in your peripheral vision. The another kind of thing is background noise. So this the intensity of the background noise is giving you some sort of distraction, and it is adversely affecting your ability to have focus attention to a particular work. So the intensity of the background noise it may be visual clutter, it may be auditory noise. So the less one can concentrate on the more noise, basically more noise, the less one can concentrate on the desired stimulus. So that's the idea towards this focused attention, and this is a complete explanation of focused attention, and you can easily correlate with day-to-day activities in order to express this focused attention. Now we come to the another kind of attention, which is divided attention. So here this divided attention refers to the situation in which there are multiple stimuli but multiple tasks must be performed together. So here in this case there are again multiple stimuli present, but difference is here is that the multiple tasks must be performed together. So here a kind of word is coming here, that time sharing. So that time sharing is something used for this type of situation. So here in this case means divided attention does not necessarily means that at the same time you have to perform two tasks. So there is no as such compulsion in this definition that the task should be performed simultaneously, although that sometimes happen, but in many cases the individual performing the multiple tasks accomplishes them sequentially, switching back and forth among them. So now I am giving you some examples so that this the definition of divided attention could be more clear. So the driving a car while talking on a cell phone with someone. So driving a car while having a conversation with the passenger in car, that is also one of the example. Driving a car while talking to a cell phone with someone. Doing income tax return while watching television, or a machine operator attending several machines in a machine cluster. So the important issue in divided attention is that the performance on at least one of the tasks is likely to be adversely affected because the person is trying to accomplish more than one task at the same time. So the following recommendations, there are several recommendations address this issue in order to improve performance in divided attention situation. So the first kind of recommendation is to minimize number of input information channels. The second is to reduce the level of difficulty of the task. Third recommendation is to reduce the similarity of the task in terms of demands on input channels, mental processing, and output requirements, etc. So in this way these following recommendations address this issue, and at the same time when you are performing multiple tasks, so as a divided attention, so as an ergonomist these issues can be addressed as a recommendations. So now we go to the next attention, and that is sustained attention. So this sustained attention, which is in fact also known as vigilance, it involves situations in which a person or any individual must watch for a signal of interest over a relatively longer period of time, and it is important to avoid missing the signal over a relatively longer period of time. And it is important to avoid missing the signal. Basically, false alarms should also be avoided, but the situations are usually such that a much higher penalty is paid for the missed signals. So in that case, just putting several examples so that this sustained attention can be expressed in a lucid way. So as an example, an inspector looking for a defective products moving along a conveyor line on their way to packaging. Another example is the radar operator monitoring a radar screen for incoming aircraft of enemies. So this is the case where false alarm should also be avoided, and situations are in such that higher penalty can be paid for a missed signal. And another example that sustained attention can be carried, that a parent waiting up for a teenage son on his first night out with a family car. So another example that you can take, that a security guard observing a ATM with TV monitors showing scenes of various locations in a building and looking out for intruders. So these are some of the examples which you can take help to understand this sustained attention. Now the next topic is lack of attention and boredom. So in that case, the lack of attention means not concentrating on particular task. So what will be the result then? So it will result in the diminished state of the readiness to perform the task. So it is usually caused by the boredom, that is, state of being weary and restless during and due to lack of interest. So I hope that the students who are listening to me will not be in that state or to hearing me. So I hope this kind of boredom is not appearing by my lectures. So the factors that is leading to boredom on the job are shorter cycle times, low requirements for body movements, warm environment, lack of contact with other workers, low motivation. This is the one of the important factor which appears to every employee in a company, though that is inclining towards this lack of attention. So low lighting levels and improper physical work environment in the workplace. So those are the situations where which is leading to the boredom on the job. Now I'm going to close this lecture, but before that there's just a fact I have added for you, that do you know that people with anxiety perceive the world differently? Their brain lumps both safe and unsafe things together and labels them all unsafe. Just have a brief history of cognitive psychology, because this in the 19th century the William James have contributed in the form of writing the first psychology textbook, that is Principles of Psychology, which was the central work of his career. The concept of functionalism is expressed in James' psychology, which he treats as a natural science. Functionalism is the adaptation of living persons to their environment. James also contributed to the James-Lange theory. This theory states that we feel an emotion because of the action in which we choose to engage. For example, we infer are afraid because we run. So this has the William James has contributed in the 19th centuries part of the cognitive psychology. And there is a graffiti for you. I am leaving these sentences for you to understand. So you read it and understand and enjoy and be ergonomically fit. Thank you.